Hello and welcome to the Middle East Forum Speaker Webinar Series and Podcast. I'm Karis Rhea and I will be moderating this discussion today. We are very pleased to have NBA player and human rights activist Enes Kanter Freedom joining us to tell us his story and discuss the price he has paid for criticizing the Turkish regime. Freedom will speak for 15 minutes and then I will ask some questions. Given that this is a pre-recorded webinar, there will unfortunately be no option for an audience Q&A. And with that, I will turn the discussion over to Enes Freedom.
First of all, thank you for having me. I want to start with my childhood because, some of the things that are happening in my childhood is still affects me till this day. I remember, I born in Switzerland. I moved back to Turkey, when I was 9 months. I grew up east side of Turkey, the city called Van, V-A-N. I had a very difficult childhood because if you live in Turkey, especially if you are a politician, right, and if you want to be elected again, the first thing you do, you go onto these rallies, you go onto this front of cameras, interviews, and you do two things: you attack America, you attack Israel. And unfortunately, the base is so uneducated. Whatever they see on TV, whatever they read on a newspaper, that they believe in it. And unfortunately, everything is controlled by the government. So I remember, growing up, there are so much propaganda towards the West, towards America, towards Israel, especially towards Christian people sometimes. And I remember that one day I went downstairs. I was 9 years old. I went downstairs to play with my friends. And what I seen that day, it really shocked me, and I still cannot forget till today. My friends were burning American flags and they were burning Israeli flags. They were breaking crosses and they were telling me to hate America, hate Israel. And so I was very confused because I was like, guys, what are you guys doing? And these kids are not even teenagers, They said, well, that's what we see on TV. That's our parents are telling us to do. They actually give me a flag to burn it. And I remember I got so scared. I threw the flag down. I ran upstairs to my apartment and I was like, Mom, I immediately asked her, I was like, Mom, my friends are telling me to hate America, hate Israel. Hate Christian people. They're the worst. They're the devil, whatever. Like, what do I do? My mom said, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but do not hate anyone before you meet him. So I give a promise to my mom that I was like, promise, I'm not going to hate anybody until I actually get to meet with these people. I remember eight years later, I came to America to play basketball and go to school at the same time. I went to college at the University of Kentucky. And then I remember, first time my plane was landed, I'm so excited, but same time I'm so nervous because I just don't know what to expect from America. So I now remember, I'm landed, I'm going to a high school here in California in Simi Valley. I remember, my teammates were just like one of the nicest people towards me. And they were so nice. They were so kind. And I was like, that's not what I have seen on television or internet, or I did not read that on newspaper the last 17 years. They were telling me to, hey, like, let's take you to mosques and let's, take you to some of the places where I can live my culture and religion freely. And that really shocked me. And I remember I was going to my first, it was mix of Shabbat and Thanksgiving dinner. And I remember when I got invited, I immediately said no. And there's no way. And my friend was American and Jewish. I was like, there's no way. They were celebrating Thanksgiving because of for some reason. But I was like, I remember, got invited, I immediately say no, but then I was like, I remember the promise to my mom. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take a chance and go. And I remember right before I go, I called one of my Turkish friends who lives in America. And I was like, if you don't hear from me for the next 2 hours, please call the police. That was like the funniest thing. I went to the house. It was so beautiful. Everything was so amazing. We had an amazing dinner. We had so much fun. At one point, I was thinking to myself, like, are they trying to brainwash me or something? So it was like the funniest thing. And then after that, I was like, this is not what I've seen on TV. This is something so pure, something so amazing. And then after that, obviously, I went to NBA. My first 2 years, all I cared about literally was playing basketball and have fun with my teammates. And my third year in NBA, I remember there was a big corruption scandal happening in Turkey. President Erdoğan and some of his family members and some of the actually congressmen close to Erdoğan was involved in it. And that's actually was the first time that I said something about it. And because the reason I put a tweet out, there was a simple tweet. I put a tweet out there was because Erdoğan was putting innocent people in jail. Whoever talk about this corruption scandal, journalists, police, judges, prosecutors. He was shutting down media outlets, shutting down newspapers, TV channels. And I was like, I don't care who you are, but like, if you are fighting against free media, I'm going to say something about it. So that's when I put a little simple tweet out there. And because of the NBA platform, it became a conversation here in the United States and Turkey. And I was like, even one simple tweet can affect this much from now. And I'm going to start pay attention about what's going on in my country more. So I started to study about what's going on. I started to study about Turkey, Turkish politics. I started to, study about the relationship between Turkey and America, what's going on in the Middle East. But the more I studied, the more I started to give interviews and write op-eds, and every time I say something, it was becoming a conversation everywhere in the world, pretty much. So then that really bothered the Turkish government. And what I talk about really affected me and my family. I remember my dad was a scientist. He got fired from his job. My sister went to medical school for 6 years. She still cannot find a job. I think the saddest one was my little brother, because he wanted to be his big brother. He wanted to, be an NBA one day, become an NBA player, but he was getting kicked out of every team in Turkey because of the same last name. So they were getting affected so much, they had to put a statement out there and said, we are disowning Enes. Actually, the letter is still out there on the internet. You guys can find it. Turkish government didn't believe that. They sent police to my house in Turkey and they raided the whole house, and they took every electronics away, actually. Phones, computers, laptops, iPads, because they wanted to see if I am still in contact with my family or not, which they couldn't find no evidence. I wasn't in contact with them, but they still took my dad in jail for a while. But we put so much pressure from America to Turkey, with politicians, with media, with celebrities, NBA players, NBA, they had to let my dad go. And then after that, they revoked my passport. They put my name on Interpol list, actually. And while I was in Romania, that's when they actually pretty much tried to kidnap me and try to take me back to Turkey. And that's when I called pretty much my senator friends, congressman friends, and actually Homeland Security really did help me get back in Turkey. And they told me one thing: till you become an American citizen, do not leave this country, because we might not be able to help you next time. So I literally stayed in America for the last 6 years, and I became a citizen just a little over a year ago. And now I started to travel. But pretty much my teammates are often ask me, or like my friends are like, dude, I get this question a lot, like, dude, are you crazy? Your family's still there. You haven't seen them almost 10 years now. Like they're being affected by what you say and stuff. But people don't understand, my family is only one. There are so many families out there. Their situation is way worse than mine. Actually, if you guys want to see like the real numbers, there's a really good website called turkeypurge.com. So if you click on that, you will see the real numbers, how many people actually are in the jail, how many people lost their job, academics, and how many media outlets and schools and dormitories has been shut down. So it's been a really struggle for Turkey. I mean, there are so many other problems obviously happening in Middle East. But the reason I care about Turkey so much, first, it's my country, and second, Turkey could be the bridge of Islam and West. But just because of all these problems are happening right now, it's impossible. And what breaks my heart the most is, I mean, I was one of the lucky ones because I came here as a teenager and I saw what's going on. But there are so many teenagers, so many little kids in Middle East are growing up anti-Semitic, anti-West, anti-American, anti-Christian because of what their leaders are saying. Ask this, question to some of the people in Middle East, and I'm sure they know it very well, very well. So in schools in Middle East, in some of the countries, front of classes, they have American flags, they have Israeli flags. And if you're a student, little kid, if you don't step on these flags, you're not allowed to attend the class. And think about the mindset of these kids are growing up. So once you sit down with these people and ask them, or these kids like, hey, why do you hate America? Why do you hate Israel? Why do you hate Christian people? They're not going to be able to answer you why, because all they hear, what they hear on TV, what they read on newspaper, what they see on internet, which is all controlled by the government. So that's what breaks my heart the most. So I'm just hoping that we can fix it somehow, by organizing maybe basketball camps, trying to bring people together and stuff. But Turkey plays a very important role in our century in Middle East. So we have to do whatever we can to fix the problem. And the problem is not the country. The problem is the regime. Once the regime changes, Turkey will have a better and brighter future. Because whenever I sit down with his leaders, with his prime ministers or presidents or senators, congressmen, the first thing they said is Erdoğan is taking Turkey in a very difficult direction, and no one is really trusting Turkey anymore. He is going around and trying to help Ukraine, but at the same time, he's opened his doors to Russian oligarchs. He is, going and shaking hands with, people like Putin, people like Iran, or people like Xi Jinping, whatever. So it's like people are saying, what are you trying to do? So people are very confused. But like I said, again, the reason I care about Turkey so much is because it could be the bridge of Islam and West. But right now, it's unfortunate. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And I definitely have some questions for you. First of all, tell us about your initiative to introduce Holocaust education into Muslim schools. How did that come about? And what has been the result?
So I remember I was playing for Boston Celtics, and I became good friends with the Consul General of Israel to Boston. He invited me to this beautiful event. It was a Holocaust Remembrance Day. And I remember the reason I wanted to go. So every organizations or every time there's a big event, they usually invite me to give me an award or for me to speak. But this time I was like, I want to go there to learn. Because you always hear about Holocaust, you always hear about, how many people actually died and stuff, but you don't know the details. When you sit down and hear all this struggles from a survivor, then it's like it actually hits you. You're like, wow, what else I can do? So I remember he invited me for a Holocaust Remembrance Day, and I went there, me and him sitting down. He's trying to explain me some things and stuff. There was this woman. She was maybe around 90 years old. She was in a wheelchair. So she literally came right next to me, and she looked up and she said, I've never seen a Jew this tall before. I started laughing. The consul general started to laugh. I was like, man, you're so sweet, but I'm not Jewish. And she said, then what are you? She said, I'm Muslim. And then she's like, so then what are you doing here? I was like, well, I'm here to learn. So I remember right after I said it, she started to tear up. She started to cry a little. And that day, they made me speak too. But that day, there to learn. And what I learned that day, I was like, it's not only Jewish people's job to tell about Holocaust. I feel like we have to do somehow, it's everybody's job to help them so it would never happen again. So I come up with this idea, I come up with this couple ideas, which people are told me that I'm crazy. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a shot and see if it actually like works or not. So I was like, why don't we just teach Muslim kids in Muslim schools about Holocaust and let's just give this initiative. And you know, it took us very long time to partner up with a school, but we finally found one in Brooklyn. And I remember after the initiative was done, I sit down and had a you know, lunch with the kids, and I asked them, like, what did you guys learn? Like what is going, like, tell me about it. They said, we are so lucky that we get to learn about what happened. Well, what can we do to help now? We learn about the past, but now the most important thing, we are here to help, and so it would never happen again. And they tell me some other things that I was like, wow, I should actually go and take this initiative, because it was just so amazing. My second, I will say my second dream was to do something actually in Israel. And I come up with this another idea. I was like, we have to do something so amazing, which has no politics involved, no conflict, no war. It has to be pure joy. What is that? Basketball. Everyone loves NBA. Everyone loves basketball. So I was like, let's use basketball to bring people together, especially the kids. So I organized this basketball camp in Israel, in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv and Haifa, but we started with Jerusalem. So we brought Christian kids, Muslim kids, Jewish kids, and Druze kids, Israelis and Palestinians in one basketball camp. And people said, dude, they're not going to play basketball. They're going to fight. I'm like, watch. So we organized a basketball camp. It was a 2 weeks basketball camp. And I remember I visited them after the first week. And as soon as I walk in the gym, the coach called me and said, can I talk to you for 1 second? I was like, well, what happened? He's like, listen, look at this little girl. She's from Palestine. And he said, her family told her to come to my basketball camp. She said, okay, it's amazing. But then her family told her where the basketball camp going to be. And she said, absolutely not. I'm glad her family was very well educated, and they pushed her to come. She said, okay, I'm only going to come for 1 hour. She ended up staying for 2 weeks. She actually ended up apologizing from all of our teammates after the first week. She just said, I just didn't know enough about, I just didn't know enough. I remember I got this rebound. I dribbled the ball. I passed it to this Jewish kid with the kippah on. He crossed someone over, he passed it to this Palestinian girl, and she scored a ball. And she was coming back, and they high-fived each other. I was like, this is the most beautiful moment I've ever seen in my life. Okay, so we gotta keep doing this. I understand we're not gonna fix whole Middle East by organizing basketball camps, but it's a start. So it was an amazing basketball camp.
Great. I have so many questions, but unfortunately we're limited in time. A very, easy answer is there any Holocaust education in Turkey? Did you grow up ever hearing about such an event?
No, not at all. I actually, people like, because like the reason I wanted to learn about, not just only give the initiative, but learn about the Holocaust, because 17 years, I did not hear nothing about Holocaust. I just know that Hitler was the worst guy ever, but I just didn't know why. Because in Turkey, you never hear about Holocaust. No one ever teaches you about what's going on, or, you just know that, Adolf Hitler is the worst guy ever, you just know that. But if you ask anyone why, they wouldn't be able to tell you. But the reason they don't teach you is because they teach you to hate Jewish people. So I have never heard anything about the Holocaust or people died or this, nothing.
Mm-hmm. And, You mentioned growing up in Turkey that a lot of people are, I guess, brainwashed, right, by the regime. What
Mhm,
I mean, this is just, pure intuition probably on your part, because I'm sure people are afraid to speak
mhm.
out a lot of times, but how much of the population do you think actually believes these kind of things about Israel and America and Jews? Or, conversely,
Mhm.
do you think there's a large percentage of the population that really wants to see Erdogan gone and doesn't believe his propaganda?
There is a big part of the country believes that, but even if you don't believe it, you're not going to be able to say anything against it, because once you do, then the Turkish government will declare you as a terrorist, like they did that to me. Once you are against the regime, once you are saying anything against what the regime is doing, or anything that if you put out anything that wrongdoings that the Erdogan's regime is doing, you're a bad guy, you're a terrorist, you're a horrible person, and you are against your country. And so that's why whenever I talk about these issues, the first thing I say, listen, I love my country, I love my flag, I love my people. The reason I'm so outspoken about some of the issues is because of I love my people. My problem is not with my country, my problem is with the current regime. But even if, like, there are so many celebrities, obviously they know what's going on. They're smart people, but they're so scared because they build their whole life in Turkey. They earn money, they earn their respect, they earn everything. Once you say, oh, Erdogan regime is wrong, then you will lose everything. You're losing everything. So that's why people are really scared to say anything against it.
Mhm,
So
mhm. Understood. What's the state with your family now? I mean, are you worried for your family, or do you know that they're safe as long as there's no contact? Do you ever get any news about them? Don't you have a brother in the US, or?
So I have a brother who actually plays basketball in Japan. He comes and goes to America very often. So I do see him. And whenever I want to communicate with my family, I talk to my brother, and my brother obviously tell them, oh, hey, my mom is doing good, my dad is doing okay, whatever. Yeah, I mean, last time I saw him, it's been almost 10 years now. And right now
They don't,
there's no.
and their passports were taken away as well, right? So they
Yes.
can't get
So
out.
they're not allowed to. I mean, we trust so many actually politicians, so many high-level people in DC. We sit down and had a conversation. I'm like, okay, what can we do to bring him here? You know, Unfortunately, everyone took their passport, and they are, um, I mean, they are scared. I mean, they've been watched all the time. They're even scared to call me and say, hey, like, how are you doing? Because they listen all their phones and track down all the IP numbers and everything. So like it's like they're in a prison in a good country. But just because of I became too powerful here with media, with politicians, with celebrities and all that stuff. So right now they are scared to touch my family. But the public is really harassing them. I remember my brother was telling me about some of the things that are happening. Like my dad got kicked out of a mosque. That's the house of God. He got kicked out of a mosque just because of that he's my father, which he has nothing to do with any of this stuff. Nothing. He was in jail for that. He went to a market to just shop, whatever, to shop a grocery, and the guy spit on his face and said, "Get out of here. Your son is a terrorist." And I was like, after hearing this kind of stuff, I'm just speechless because I feel so sad for my country.
Mhm. Right, right. Now, Turkey is not necessarily considered an official enemy of the US, right?
Mhm.
I mean, they don't have the
Yeah.
same status as Iran or,
Yes.
North Korea. And both the Trump and the Biden administrations
Mhm.
enjoyed somewhat of kind of an ambiguous relationship with Turkey. What would you like to see happen politically? What do you think needs to happen in order to crush this regime? Is there any?
So So Turkey is a NATO ally, which does not act like a NATO ally. I'm sure everybody who's watching this knows about what's happening with Finland and Sweden, how Erdogan just really pressure NATO about so many things. This is what I in one of my interviews that I said Erdogan is the Trojan horse for Putin in NATO. And now the more time goes on, I see that what I said was 100% real. Erdoğan has been harassing not only the countries in NATO, but like you see what's happening in Greece and Cyprus. Erdoğan is really harassing the whole region. I believe I'm just so sick of all these leaders and all these people coming and saying, okay, diplomacy is so important and we don't want to lose Turkey. But while you are trying to fix your relationship with Turkey, on the other side of the world, people are, in Turkey, people are losing their loved ones, losing their lives and losing their homes. It's pretty much, I don't want to say it's pretty much, it is a dictatorship now, So what I want to see is, I don't want to hear any kind of condemning. I want to actually hear some solid actions taken towards Turkey to free the political prisoners, or or just enough with the torture, to torture. I mean, Turkey is like the #1 country in the world that put most journalists in jail. I believe more than China and Russia. So what I want to see is sanctions. Maybe they can use Magnitsky Act on towards some of the, the people or officials, but maybe not towards the whole country, but toward individuals. I think sanctions could be the first step. I mean, I even have a bill with so many senators in the Senate, and they're sponsoring it, but unfortunately, Erdoğan is playing this like game with Ukraine, and then he's shaking hands with Russia. So it's like America is really, I will say, like confused to what to do with Turkey, So it's like, but I think the first step will be definitely sanctions towards individuals.
Mm-hmm. Great. And I just want to sneak one more question in here before we end. Was there certain politicians or members of Congress that you felt like really wanted to take action and really understood the threat of the regime, but for whatever reason they can't make headway? Or do you feel like the vast majority of people are just kind of placating and playing both sides and just condemning, like you're saying, without action?
I mean, many of them want to do it. I mean, look at all the tweets, actually. Look at Bob Menendez, look at Rick Scott, look at Ron Wyden. I have a bill with Ron Wyden, Ed Markey, and Jeff Merkley. Look at so many other senators. I have another bill with in a House with Hakeem Jeffrey. So there's so many people believes that actions will be taken, but I believe that, I don't know, I guess the White House don't want to really take some real actions because of the war going on in Ukraine and because of the diplomacy. But like, I just want to say, you cannot play softball games with these dictators. And Erdoğan has been actually using this for years and years. Every administration, before President Biden takes the office, I remember his interview. It's actually on the internet. I actually posted it on my Twitter. He said, "There's only one country is the biggest problem in Middle East, and it's Turkey. We have to fix that country." And now he takes the office. It's been almost 2 years, 2 years now, and nothing's happening. Like, whenever I go to like sit down with this, I guess, high-level people from the State Department, people from not only America, whenever I go to Canada or different, parliaments to speak, whatever, I'm like, I don't want to hear your condemning. I actually said it to one of the world leaders. I was like, enough with the condemning. I hear that from everybody. We have to take some actions, or Erdoğan is literally going to destroy not only Turkey, but the countries around it. Look at how much he's harassing Greece or Cyprus. He's asking F-16s, F-35s from America, but then he's going and buying S-400s from Russia. He wants to invade Greece, and whatever he's doing in Syria, the whole world knows it now. Looks how much he's harassing Cyprus. See how much he's torturing Kurdish people. The Kurdish leader, the HDP party, is in jail for nothing, for no reason. So it's sad to see just your country going through this, but I believe that America has a power to, I guess, change that, but it just, not happening.
Yeah, understood. Well, I'm sorry to end on a pessimistic note, but unfortunately we've come to the close of our webinar. Thank you, Enes, so much for joining us
Course.
today. For our viewers, please be on the lookout for our weekly webinar offerings email coming out over the weekend. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.